Unfortunately, we're not starting this off very well. I am just mad. She has to move in with someone he just met off the internet, and he won't even be there for when she actually meets the person she's about to live with, which is so dangerous if you think about it. Hello, I'm Beth Joey, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is the channel where I paint my face, turn my camera on, and talk about some books. So I am predominantly a romance reader, but I have not been reading a lot of romance lately, and that is really sad to me. So I decided I would reignite that romance spark within myself and try a chapter of a few recent romance purchases. They're either recent releases or I only recently bought them. I think there's only one or two that's not actually a recent release, and just use it as a way to get myself back into the genre. And I figured, why not film my experience, give you my thoughts on each of these books and where I am sitting in terms of which one I want to jump right into first of all. So these are the 5 books that I'm going to be reading for this video. We've got The Roommate by Rosie Danan, The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, which was of course recently made into a movie, Tessa Bailey's latest, which is My Killer Vacation, a new book from Nisha Sharma, which is Dating Dr. Dill, and the incredibly hyped up new release from Emily Henry, which is Book Lovers. So I have entered each of these books into this random wheel generator thing, and I'm just going to pick one based off of this. So let's see what color it picks and therefore what book we get. And it looks like we are starting with The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. So we are starting with this, and as for what it's about, it says Lucy Hutton, baker of cakes, charming assistant, and professional nice girl, is waging war. She's got the whole office on her side, except for tall, dark, and charmless Joshua Templeman. He's been nothing but hostile since the moment they met, and now it feels like nothing matters as much as taking him down. Trapped together under the fluorescent lights, they become entrenched in an addictive rivalry. There's the starting game, the mirror game, the HR game. Lucy can't let Joshua beat her at anything, especially when a huge promotion comes up for grabs. Finally, she's going to destroy the man she can't seem to get out of her office, the man she hates, the man who's taken up far too much space in her head. If Lucy wins, she'll be Joshua's boss. If she loses, she'll resign. The race is on, but the real games have only just begun. And this has been turned into a movie on Amazon Prime, which I watched and didn't love, so hopefully I like the first chapter of the book a bit more. So let's read this straight away. Just finished the first chapter of The Hating Game, and I don't like this. I think Joshua and Lucy are mean. They're really annoying and really childish. There's something really immature about these games. I think they're really petty. I think Joshua is a little bit of a dick, the way he treats her and the way he comments on the obvious like sexual harassment she's experiencing from his boss. The way he just brushes it off and makes some joke about it. That's wrong. I can't get behind that. As for the writing style, I think everything in that first chapter was really info dumpy. There were definitely aspects of The Office that could have been told in a different way. Some of the stuff is very important to give that sort of Romeo and Juliet, Montague and Capulet sort of vibe where the two groups of the company are very against each other, but the full-blown explanations of some of the relationships and the full history of these companies, how the office is laid out in a particular way because that's the only thing that these two companies could agree on. I think some of that information just wasn't really necessary. She does describe the office situation well in a way that it feels very sterile, which is obviously very against the publishing house that I think you're positioned to like. But all in all, I didn't love the first chapter of this. Unfortunately, we're not starting this off very well. So we've got 4 more on the spinning wheel. So let's press the button, spin the wheel, and get the next pick, which is going to be, blue with The Roommate. So next up we've got The Roommate by Rosie Danan. This is a book that I've actually had for quite a while, and as for what it's about, it says Clara Wheaton is the consummate good girl, overachieving, well-mannered, utterly predictable. When her childhood crush invites her to move cross-country, the offer is too good to resist. Unfortunately, it's also too good to be true. Suddenly, Clara finds herself sharing a house with a charming stranger. Josh might be a bit too perceptive, not to mention handsome, for comfort, but there's a good chance he and Clara could have survived sharing a summer sublet if she hadn't looked him up on the internet. Once she learns how Josh has made a name for himself, Clara realizes living with him might destroy the reputation she's spent years building. But while they may not agree on much, both Josh and Clara believe women deserve better sex. What they decide to do about it will change both of their lives, and if they're lucky, they'll help everyone else get lucky too. So this makes me think they're in some sort of sex-related pact, maybe? I don't know. Let's give this one a read and see how we go. Okay, first chapter of The Roommate done, and I definitely enjoyed this a lot more than I enjoyed The Hating Game, which is a good start. I think there is definitely an element of charm and just lightness and just fun, I think, to this particular situation between Clara and Josh. I think there's definitely like the awkwardness between them is very, very authentic because, you know, they're two strangers who now have to live together and they have to establish ground rules and learn a bit about each other. There's an obvious attraction between the two of them as well, which is making things a bit more fun and uncomfortable and awkward. And I also really, really like how in the first chapter, you're not info dunked with a ton of information. There's definitely a lot of hints to things that are dropped and things that are going to be figured out in the rest of the story, as well as relationships that are going to be figured out through the rest of the story as well. Only thing that I don't really love is the character of Clara. She's positioned as this sort of rich girl who's gone to an Ivy League school, so she's clearly quite smart, and then she drops everything for this one-off, completely random chance at love with a guy that she used to be in love with and a guy that she's grown up with who, frankly, clearly treats her like crap. But it's clear that Josh is aware of just how toxic this is, and hopefully he's going to educate her throughout the course of the novel and be like, look, this person is not your friend. At least with this one, I did like it a lot more. It's got charm, it's got wittiness and lightness that I really enjoy, and I'm loving the sort of sex positive vibe that I'm getting for it already. Yeah, this one's doing pretty well. So we've got 3 books left on the wheel, so let's pick the next one, which is going to be... close. Okay, so we've got Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which is a book that has been so massively hyped up. It's her latest release, so let's try a chapter and see what I think. If you've been living under a rock for the past few weeks, Book Lovers is about Nora, who's a cutthroat literary agent at the top of her game. Her whole life is books. Charlie is an editor with a gift for creating bestsellers, and he's Nora's work nemesis. Nora has been through enough breakups to know she's the one men date before finding their happily ever after. To prevent another dating dud, Nora's sister persuades her to swap her city desk for a month's holiday in Sunshine Falls. It's a small town straight out of a romance novel, but instead of meeting sexy lumberjacks, handsome doctors, or cute bartenders, Nora keeps bumping into Charlie. She's no heroine, he's no hero, so can they take a page out of an entirely different book? I'm super looking forward to this enemies to lovers. I love a good Emily Henry, so fingers crossed I love this one as much as I've loved her other books. Okay, I've just finished the first chapter of Book Lovers, aka the prologue, and I really loved this. I love how cynical Nora is about her own life and her own romantic situations, and I love how aware of tropes she is. Obviously, as a literary agent, tropes and things like that are literally her life, especially if she is a literary agent for romance authors, and the way she talks comically about how they've applied in her own life. I'm honestly having so much fun with this. I think it's so witty. Charlie is clearly like a grumpy sort of editor. He's, you know, it's a grumpy sunshine romance. There's definitely an enemies to lovers vibe here, but there's still that residual chemistry, especially in the emails that they're sending each other. It's not like The Hating Game where it's enemies to lovers and you have no idea where this relationship is going to build from, because it's literally just hate and two people who hate each other for literally no reason. These people are two people who've had a conflict over something. They don't hate each other, but they don't particularly like each other either, but the tension and the chemistry is still there, especially in their emails. I mean, they've already got an inside joke, which I love. So yeah, I'm really loving this book. I'm really keen to read more of this. So great rating from me on this one. This is probably going to be the best book of this video if the next two don't beat it out. But as for what I'm going to be reading next, we've got a 50-50 chance here. So let's pick the next book, which is going to be Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. This is a fairly recent release as well, and one I've been really anticipating. So Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma, this was one I picked up because I think it featured in Book of the Month or one of those sort of book subscription boxes, and I thought that sounds really cool. I'm gonna give it a go. As for what it's about, it says Karina Mann dreams of having a love story like her parents, but she prefers restoring her classic car to swiping right on dating apps. When her father announces he's selling her late mother's home, Karina makes a deal with him. He'll gift her the house if she can get engaged in 4 months, but her search for a soulmate becomes impossible when her argument with Dr. Prem Verma, host of the Dr. Dill show, goes viral. Now the only man in her life is the one she doesn't want, and I'm not going to read any more than that because I don't want to give it away for myself. So let's read the first chapter of this. Okay, chapter 1 of Dating Dr. Dill done, and I am just mad. This whole book, or this whole first chapter, has just made me mad. Cultural differences aside, obviously I'm not from an Indian family. I didn't grow up in an Indian family. I don't understand the level of emphasis placed on marriage. Her family full on forgot her 30th birthday, are selling the house that she created with her mother out from under her without even telling her about it, are placing complete priority on her sister and completely shoving her to the side, and not at all congratulating her for the massive successes she's having in her career, which is just unforgivable to me. It's kind of really hard sometimes in a romance to support the romance that is built out of these situations because it's come from such a negative place. I think I'm really going to struggle to support the romance that comes out of it if it doesn't really come back as the, you know, love interest going to her family and saying, no, like, you can't treat her this way. Unfortunately, all of that stuff that happened really distracted from me enjoying any of the writing, any of the plot building, any of the character building, anything like that. I just really didn't enjoy this because the situation around this character is really horrible. Lastly, we've got probably my most anticipated book, which is My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. I literally bought this a couple of days ago. The idea of a sort of murder mystery romance is absolutely amazing to me, and I love that it's gonna be like, you know, big muscly man protecting the girl, and I love the sort of amateur crime sleuth side of things as well. So as for what it's about, it says it was supposed to be a relaxing vacation in sweet sunny Cape Cod, just me and my beloved brother, but discovering a corpse in our rental house really throws a wrench into our tanning schedule. Now a rude, crude bounty hunter has arrived on the back of his motorcycle to catch the killer and refuses to believe that I can be helpful despite countless hours of true crime podcast listening, not to mention a fulfilling teaching career of wrangling second graders. A brash bounty hunter and an energetic elementary school teacher, the murder-solving team no one asked for, but thanks to those pesky attempts on my life, we're stuck together, come hell or high tide. I'm not going to read any more of the blurb because I'm already hooked on this, so I'm gonna give this a go, and hopefully it comes out on top because I've been really looking forward to this one. Okay, so I have just finished the first chapter of My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey, and it was okay. There was nothing particularly amazing about it. It didn't hook me in as much as I wanted it to. I expected the sort of murder that they discovered to happen right in the first couple of pages rather than towards the end of the chapter. The relationship between the two siblings I thought was interesting, that it wasn't just this one girl on holiday by herself. Her sibling was involved, and there's a lot of charm there, there's a lot of wit there, so I'm hoping that's going to be like the comedic relief throughout the story, though I'm kind of intrigued as to how that's going to play in with the romance that's obviously going to take place, because I personally wouldn't want a sibling there while I was like falling in love with someone. I love the whole amateur sleuth true crime aficionado second guessing that she's doing throughout the first chapter as she's seeing these peepholes and being like, what the hell, there's something creepy going on here. Love the protectiveness of the brother as well. Obviously we haven't met the sort of male lead yet, so that's going to come into the next chapter, and I think the next chapter is told from his perspective, so we get multi-perspective, which is great. But all in all, yeah, it was just an okay chapter. It didn't really hook me as much as I wanted it to. So that is the last book in this try chapter tag. So if I had to rate these books in terms of what I liked the most to what I liked the least, this is probably what the stack would look like. So Book Lovers was the absolute winner. I loved the charm, I loved the wit, I loved the sort of enemies to lovers that was presented at the beginning, but not so enemies to lovers that you don't know how they're going to eventually fall for each other. My Killer Vacation, Tessa Bailey, comes next. I'm just so hooked by the idea of a murder mystery romance, and that's probably a big part of why that one's next. Then The Roommate, I like how the charm's there, the fun is there, obviously the sex positiveness is great. Dating Dr. Dill, toxic family, hated that, it really distracted me from the rest of the story, but I liked the hints towards things rather than just being blatantly told what was happening. And lastly, The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. It felt super info dumpy at the very beginning, so I just couldn't get behind that one. So this is the stack. Hopefully this will get me actually reading some of these soon. So that is my try chapter tag. Let me know if you've read any of these books, enjoyed any of them. Come and chat to me in the comments down below. I do my best to reply to every single comment, and I love chatting to you guys. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, let me know by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell all down below. It is a super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!